got some news from On3, which is very exciting stuff, that essentially Michigan is tied for 7th in the country in NIL spending alongside USC. So the only people ahead are Texas, Texas Tech, Ohio State, Oregon, Texas A&M, and Miami. And then it's Michigan and USC. And we're actually ahead of Tennessee and Auburn, which spend quite a bit in NIL money, and obviously, the SEC money with both of those. This is massive, and make no mistake about it. This is Ellison. This is Sean McGee. This is the culmination of what happened with the House bill and the resolution with that. It's a bunch of factors coming together, but I just have to say, hats off to Sean McGee. Hats off to Sharon Moore. Hats off to the revisions that have happened. I mean, I say this a lot. When Mark Rogers and I were talking about this last night on the watch party, I started hosting this show like two years ago, a little over 2 years ago. And if you had told me then Michigan would be one of the biggest spenders in college football, I'd be like, that's what we should be. But for whatever reason, it's transformational, not transactional, and all of this. Well, now 2 years later, Michigan is in its rightful place in the top 10, TJ.
Yeah, and and Moose makes his point, says we should be higher. I mean, look, we're not done. Michigan's not done. There's actually some very encouraging things in the future here for Michigan in terms of NIL. I mean, like, the reality is Michigan just got started in September. They're now playing with the big boys. They were doing some modest spending prior to September, but then they opened the checkbooks thanks to the Ellisons and other donors. It's not just the Ellisons, but Ellisons are obviously the main face. But yeah, man, I mean, it's great to be a bag school. It's great to be a bag school. And I'm going to take a little victory lap, not on this show, but I've had some debates. John. I've had some debates about prior to Michigan getting into NIL spending, right, and playing the game. And this is when we were behind, when War Manual wasn't budging and the regents weren't budging and all of that. I debated so many, not on this show either, but on Twitter and other message boards, etc. I have debated so many damn posters, bro, defending Michigan. Michigan will never spend money. They will never buy kids. They're transformational, not transactional. They're not Michigan men. They're just chasing bags. Well, you know what the irony is, John? And by the way, if you find yourself as a fan and you're now in this position, and don't get me wrong, we all have the right to evolve opinions, and this is not a shot at you, but it is damn sweet to see some of the individuals I've debated with years past absolutely excited to bag some of these 5 stars and 4 stars in Carter Meadows, because the fight that so many fans put up, and I'm sure there's a lot of I see it in the comments, facts. I'm sure there's a lot of fans who were debating other Michigan fans who say things like, Michigan will never be a bag school. They're beyond that. This is better than holier than thou mentality. Well, the reality is, and I have stressed this, you adapt or you die, and that is industry. That is industry. That's business 101, baby. If you are not evolving with the competition, you are a blockbuster. Okay. And Michigan, thankfully got it together. And now they're playing with the big boys. And what's also interesting about this graphic, John, you don't see Alabama and you don't see Georgia. Okay. And then to Matt Miller's point, who is a Texas fan, the oil schools, your Texas Techs, your A&Ms, your Texas, it's interesting to not see Oklahoma, because that is a bit of an oil school, but they don't have and I've talked to some Oklahoma fans who are somewhat intertwined in Oklahoma athletics. They just don't have the demographics in terms of the population, and they don't have as much oil money as some of these other schools who are literally centered in Texas. Now, what is also interesting about this, John, I'll let you go next.
Yeah.
Texas Tech is saying they are paying a 30% premium on players because of their education, which is bullshit. If anyone saw my tweet today, I was calling it out. No, you're paying a 30% premium because you're not good. Because you're trying to play with the big boys. That's what's happening. So let's call out the bullshit there. But very good to see. Listen, Michigan, in my opinion, is a top 5 NIL school. They're not done. They're not done. So I mean, it's great to see. Good to see we're on the right path, and Michigan is not done.
Yeah. When you go 8, when 8-5 is a good year. 7-6. I mean, this is a school that they tend to have 7-6, 8-5. That's their floor and their ceiling. It seems like recently. So yeah, in order to drum up the excitement, they've got to pay a premium, and that's why they went out and they got Felix Ojo for $5.1 million reportedly over 3 years. Absolutely insane for a non-quarterback to be getting that kind of money. Texas, I will say, did get 2. They went up the rankings quite a bit today. Matt Miller talking about it. 2 5-stars. Sark looking Kirby smart in the eye and taking his players. Look, that's how the game is played in 2025. So, got to get with the program.
Yeah, and the other thing too, I think we should hit on before we move on, and just so Matt knows, we're going to be talking about Texas in the recruiting update, by the way. But Ohio State fans who are bitching and whining and complaining like Ohio State fans do. Oh, well, we gotta get our NIL together. Oh, we're getting outbidded. The reality is you have so much money allocated to your roster. You only have so much money per cycle, you clowns. They just don't understand how this shit works, bro. Like, they don't realize it's not infinite money. You have a budget per year, a budget per cycle, and so much is allocated to roster retainment, and so much is allocated to one cycle. And that's where Ohio State finds itself. This is why Ohio State has right now, how many commits do they have? They are pretty maxed out. They cannot outbid everybody once you get to the end of your end of your class. So Ohio State has 21 kids. Okay, they're in the range of probably adding 3 to 6 more kids. There's only so much money left. You're not going to blow it on. You're not going to blow the rest of your money on a Luke Wolf, right? I'm sorry, not Luke Wolf, Luke Wafel. So like it's something that, like, it's funny to watch the Ohio State fans cry about NIL when it's quite clear they have been buyers in buying roster talent and acquiring talent beyond legal NIL. But you still find that fan base crying today, even though they have a top 5 class, for not having enough NIL, John.
Mason Graham said it best. Ohio State pussy.
That's facts, bro. It's fucking
facts. Mason Graham said it best, and I gotta say, I rewatched today the 13-10 Michigan victory, and it still feels just as good as it did in November. But that ending when they got so upset because Michigan just did what they do when they win in Columbus, and they tried to plant that flag, and they got so butthurt that somebody did an act of Congress to try to get flag planting banned as like a felony. This NIL thing is yet another example of the softness in the program, despite winning a natty.
They are, and forgive me, you know who you are, somebody posted on Twitter, and it was one of the topics I was in. They are the spoiled kid who doesn't get their way. They cry about it because they are so used to, and here's a compliment, being elite and essentially winning 10 wins at minimum. Okay. They are so used to that. They think it's fucking, it's just supposed to happen. And if it doesn't happen, it's everybody else's fault but their own. Okay. And if they happen to lose a recruiting battle, okay, which, by the way, everyone has money now. It's not just you in the Big Ten who has money now. Or buying players, it's because the playing field has evened for these guys, but they can't even grasp it. They think Ohio State should just win every recruitment, win every game, because that's just the way it is. It's Ohio State. No, the reality is you had a hell of a competitive advantage for 20 effing years. Yes, you did win prior to, I would argue, I mean, who knows? I don't know what happened in the 80s. I've just heard from 90s on, Ohio State has always been a bit of a bag school. I'm sure in the 80s, who knows? But the reality is the playing field has now evened and the gap is closing. And I've said this before, John, when you have the big 5 schools in the Big Ten, because it really is the big 5. You got Oregon, you got USC, you got Michigan, you got Ohio State, you got Penn State. Washington is a distant 6, but they're doing their thing. They got a 5-star. Yeah, I fully believe Ohio State is going to get a reality check. I don't think they realize. I don't think the fans realize yet that with the college football playoff, with the ability for all these schools to now buy players, and not just the SEC, not just Ohio State in the Big Ten, but everybody, right? Look at this list. You got Texas Tech, you got Miami, USC, you got Auburn here, which is interesting to see Auburn, by the way. But at the end of the day, I think Ohio State's going to get a bit of a reality check this decade. I think this decade they're going to realize, oh, that was a good run. I don't think it's going to be like that anymore. Now, I'm not saying they're going to fall off a cliff. They're still going to be a college football playoff contender, yes, but they will not have that gap of dominance that they had prior to getting their face stomped in by Michigan the last 4 years.
When Michigan flipped Bryce Underwood for $10.5 million, I raced home as quickly as I could. I had people remember that show. I had my suit on still, and I raced in there to try to celebrate, because this was a massive tectonic shift that took place when securing Bryce Underwood. That is what put Michigan in the big leagues, because that just doesn't happen 2 years ago. That doesn't happen 5 years ago. That doesn't happen. That happens because Michigan is finally playing ball with everyone else. And now look out.
Yes. 100%, man. And in Michigan, the beautiful thing about it is we know Michigan still has plenty in the resource, right? Michigan, we know with the Calvin Russell situation, there was a lot of money allocated there. Well, which we'll get into in the recruiting update, that we are seeing a push for linebackers, okay? And potentially some other players, which we'll get into in the recruiting update. That's very exciting. So yes, Michigan's in a great position. I am very excited to see I am so excited to see how they close out the year. Are we going to see some flips in those final 2 to 3 months of that signing day? I think we will. I think Michigan's going to be aggressive, but we're going to find out. I'm excited. The good news for us is Michigan is a bag school, and they're not, you know what else I love? They're not shy about it. I will say this, though. As Michigan fans, the House bill that someone's trying to pass, I can't remember who it was, where they're trying to really, oh, that's another thing, too. Let's hit on this, John, while we're on it. How effing funny is it? And yes, I'm going to name Garrison's name, and he's not the only one. And I'm going to name his name later, too. But he knows I love him. I love Garrison. He's my boy. They want checks and balances now. How funny is it? They want checks and balances in college football now. The SEC, Ohio State. Oh, no. Here comes the Ellisons. And now you want checks and balances because now you're not the only one buying kids. Now there's probably 20 to 30 schools that are buying kids. Yes, there's 10 who are buying more than others. But the reality is it's gotten fairer. And they don't like it. So now they want checks and balances because they know I feel Buckeyes know, oh shit. I think in the back of their mind, like, oh shit. We're losing these top recruitments. We're losing, like they're catching ground on us. Texas Tech is outspending us. Love it. I love it. I'm all for it. So just as Michigan fans, I'm just letting you guys know right now, whenever you see these House bills or this regulation on college football, we want free market. Free market. The ability for players to not be limited in their earnings is good for Michigan. You know why? Because Michigan is willing to do what it needs to do to get the players it needs to get. We saw that with Bryce Underwood. We saw that with the number 1 transfer portal player in basketball, and Yaxel Landenborg. Dusty May has said it publicly. We are the flipping Yankees and Dodgers. because we are. So let's enjoy this fucking run. Hail the free market and F any regulation on college football, which, by the way, if they were to pass that House bill, it would be challenged in court. Collectives have already made some comments about how it's just you're limiting player earnings, players, agents. There'll be a lot of people who will be against that. The only way, in my opinion, that there is some type of cap and true structure is if there is a collective bargaining agreement and a college football commissioner. As long as that don't happen, we should be fine. Now, I will say this. If we are on an even playing field, I do think Michigan will still do very well because we have something schools don't have and you can't regulate. That is the academic prestige. It doesn't matter what school it is. They don't have that. So Michigan is playing with house money and we're doing damn well at it.
Yeah, I think it's hilarious that a school that had Urban What'll It Take to come to this school, Meyer, and the SEC with Alabama and Nick Saban and the post-game handshakes with envelopes. I mean, these people were paying players 20 years ago. Well, and McDonald's bags being thrown around, and now everyone else can also pay their players. So it's just the fact they want checks and balances now that other schools can also pay alongside them.
Now that
Michigan, a little bit more fair.
Now that Michigan's got a gun, and I want to hit on this comment from Richie Buckeye Dubs.
Yeah,
he goes, "What advantage?" Laugh out loud, TJ. What advantage did innocent little Ohio State, what could they possibly have an advantage on the last 25 years? Brother, I hate to break it to you, but you've been buying players for the last 25 years. You've been playing by SEC rules in a Big Ten conference that does not play SEC rules. Now we are all playing SEC rules, and it's a big reason why you guys have lost 4 straight and looking to lose a 5th, and it's another reason why the Big Ten hierarchy is shifting. Now, you guys are still an elite player. No one discounts that. You're still a power program. That's true, but there are a lot more now. And the playing field has evened, my friend. So good luck. You're going to need it.
Yeah, that is hilarious. What advantages when literally Ohio State players have come out and said, yeah, we got paid. I got paid more at Ohio State than I get in the UFL now. I saw that comment above, but there are others like that. They were getting paid. They were getting cars. Yeah. There were lots of kind of shady backroom things going on there, and it wasn't just Ohio State. It was the SEC. It was Alabama. It was Georgia. It was, the top schools in the SEC were doing it too. But absolutely, Ohio State was the one, and so now Michigan can do it too.
In a conference that wasn't doing. That's the other thing too. Like, okay, in the SEC, you got other schools. There was a lot of schools playing that game. In the Big 12, Texas and Oklahoma were playing that game. In the Big 10, it was just Ohio State playing that game. So, and the ACC, like, if anyone thinks Clemson's rise to dominance in the 2010s was because Dabo Swinney's just a great coach, you're out of your mind. Ask Rashawn Gary how much he was offered. Bullshit, bro. The reason why those 4 schools, Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Clemson, and we'll put Oklahoma in there even though they got their ass kicked in the playoffs, the reason why those were the schools that were at the cream of the crop is because they were throwing McDonald's bags before Tennessee was. Come on, get out of here. Listen to the quote from the Valdosta coach, very prestigious high school, one of the most prestigious high schools in Georgia, talk about Nick Saban and Kirby Smart and what they're doing with players. That's on YouTube. Go find it. Get out of here.
We have a message